is 7:07. We're coming out of executive session. I'm calling the regular meeting back to order. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Thank you, Pat. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried. While tonight is a special meeting, we are going to follow the public comment protocols of a regular meeting. The board has set aside time at the beginning and end of regular meetings for public comments for members of the public to share their views on matters involving the Wilton Public Schools and to help inform the board's decisions on such matters. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to any one subject. For the record, please also give your name and address. The board considers the views of citizens in its deliberations and welcomes and appreciates public comment. The board listens to public comment thoughtfully and with interest. The board, however, does not respond to public comment during board meetings by offering commentary or answering questions. The board also invites commentators and the public to contact the board or the superintendent directly with any specific questions or comments. The board, through the chair and the superintendent, may respond to questions and comments offered during public comment or shared directly, and in responding may also direct members of the public to the appropriate staff member for a response. Are there comments from the public? Please. If you want to come up, that's fine, or however you prefer.
Hi, my name is Michelle Martinez. I live at 45 Clover Drive. So I'm exceptionally concerned about two aspects of the cider mill schedule change. The first is the reduction of world language time, and that is the only subject experiencing reduction. And secondly, the process and communication around this change. Research from the ACTFL demonstrates in a controlled test that students taking a second language had higher math and reading scores than the control group. And data from the British Academy demonstrates that new language learners need 10 minutes for the brain to shift from one language to another. As to the process, this change seems substantial, and it's unclear whether this is a proposal or already planned. If it's a proposal, I'd like to understand the role of the BOE, the administration, what the mechanism is for receiving feedback, and who has the authority to make a final decision. I feel that the administration has intentionally obfuscated and diminished these changes. So my questions are as follows. What research is the administration using to make this recommendation, specifically around the reduction of world language time and the shift in the curriculum? What do the foreign language instructors think of this change? How will teachers be able to fulfill the necessary requirements with the reduced time so that students are prepared for middle school, where world language is a core subject? How will students move from one room to another when a French teacher comes into a classroom, but where there are Spanish students in that class as well? How will language teachers teach in a multidimensional fashion so that they can no longer use their classroom for cultural immersion? How does the reduction of time and the loss of cultural content of the curriculum further the school's portrait of a graduate that includes the ability to demonstrate cultural competence and sensitivity in a sustainable and interdependent world? I'd also like to understand how the science and social studies content is relevant to the foundational background that they need. I'd also like to make the following requests. Please make the schedule change proposal publicly available on the Wilton School website. Please provide a chart that shows the changes in minutes and as a percentage for all programs affected. Provide the research that demonstrates that this is a superior methodology for language proficiency, and provide documentation of the curriculum. I encourage the BOE to reject this proposal and request the cider mill staff to develop another plan that at least maintains world language time at its current rate, if not increases it. And I'd also like to make one point that's been misrepresented by the cider mill staff. Although other school districts may have less time per day for foreign language, all of those programs begin in kindergarten. Therefore, it's not a comparable comparison. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Are there any other comments from the public? Thank you. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicola. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Board chair report. As a board chair and a mother of three with three in three schools, this has been a very difficult week. There was a security breach at the high school. This is alarming and scary. The district has a long history of taking security very seriously, and the security, safety, and well-being of the school community is paramount for each and every one of us sitting at this table. Please know that the fears and concerns stemming from Tuesday are recognized, understood, and shared, and are actively being addressed. The schools and police are still in the investigative process. Changes to some processes and procedures are being put into place, and others continue to be researched, studied, and refined. We are at the beginning of the process, not the end. We pledge to continue to communicate with the community and keep you informed of progress and changes, always in recognition that we can do better and will be better.
Great, thanks. I have two pieces to my report. I'm going to elaborate on Ruth's comments. I want to talk a little bit more about the security breach at the high school, and then I just want to provide the board an update about the flood in the old gym at Cider Mill. So I appreciate, Ruth, I appreciate your comments. I think kind of 3 points of summary for us, and I'll elaborate a little bit. You know, I think number one, as an administration, as a school community, we recognize the gravity of the situation. That is not lost, and we recognize the fear that it's created, and certainly as a superintendent, also as a dad with 2 kids in the school, I appreciate it. We also know, as we have been kind of reflecting on this, we didn't get it right. And so, you know, the third kind of point of summary is, you know, our commitment to go back through and really audit our experience, audit our decisions, and to do better and have better plans going forward. So let me just elaborate a little bit. You know, first, to repeat, as a school district, we take our commitment to ensuring the physical and emotional safety of every person in our schools very seriously. This obligation is our first priority. I've said it before. I say it again. I say it tonight. Tuesday's incident, when an unauthorized person entered the school building during the school day, has undermined a sense of safety for many, led some to question our responses to unusual circumstances, and revealed the urgent need to re-examine some of our procedures. Know that we take these responsibilities very seriously, and we recognize there is no margin for error. We also recognize that any incident that involves the safety of one of our schools provides us with an opportunity to critically evaluate our procedures and identify ways to strengthen security procedures and communication. As you know, we're often limited in our ability to share certain information based on the privacy rights of those directly involved, the need to maintain the confidentiality of certain safety protocols, and in order to preserve the integrity of investigations that are often in process. We will always communicate with families as soon as we can reasonably do so, and with as much information as we can reasonably provide, recognizing it might not be as much as people would hope for. There are some things we just can't talk about in public. Some of the information that I'll provide now was included in Dr. O'Donnell's message to students and families yesterday afternoon. So as you already know, at approximately 10:14 on Tuesday, a person who's not enrolled in our school district entered the building through a door that was locked. This person was allowed to enter by another individual who knew the student and opened the door for the student. Know that after our initial investigation into the matter, we addressed this issue directly with that individual who allowed the student into the building and took action in accordance with our policies. Shortly after the individual's entry, school staff was notified of an unauthorized person in the building. The police were also notified. There was a gap in time between when the student entered the building and when school administrators were notified. We followed safety protocols that included deploying school administrators, campus supervisors, and Wilton police to locate both the unauthorized person and the individual who permitted the person into the building. At the time, there was no report of an imminent threat and no report of a weapon. However, we consider any unauthorized visitor to be a cause for concern, and we follow our protocols accordingly. One of the questions that's been asked is, why didn't the school initiate a hold or a lockdown, initiate our standard response protocol? There's not an easy answer to this question, and this is one of the primary areas of analysis and investigation and procedural improvement. In the initial response, the focus of the immediate response was on locating the individual. It's clear in hindsight that initiating the standard response protocol needs to be immediate, and that's one of the changes we've made already. We learned through our initial investigation that the individual left the property at about 10:37 a.m., and shortly thereafter the Wilton Police Department confirmed that the student was not on site and that officers had made contact with the individual and his family. Our investigation into this incident continued over Wednesday and Thursday of this week. We continue to review available information as we identify opportunities to reinforce and improve our procedures. Debriefing on the matter has also included and will continue to include our high school administration, Wilton Police Chief Conlon, Deputy Chief Cipolla, our 2 school resource officers, other district administrators, and myself. And while no one was harmed during the incident, and while we don't have any reason to believe there was intent to cause harm, we recognize the gravity of this event and are committed to taking steps to avoid this from happening in the future. Our immediate next steps include engaging in additional training for our entire staff in accordance with our analysis of this event, including our response and communication, both internal communication and communication with families. Communicating to all students and staff again about our shared roles in maintaining a safe and secure building. Reinforcing with all members of our school community that they must never prop doors open, never let in outsiders, and must use only the main entrance of the school for access and egress. Asking parents and community members to partner with us in avoiding posting incomplete or unconfirmed information on social media. Establishing a communication procedure to quickly and effectively communicate with community members while also allowing school and district administrators to focus on the safety response first. Engaging our district and building level emergency operations committees to carefully review this incident and make recommendations about additional steps that should be taken. I'd just note that members of the Wilton Fire Department, our Police Department, and the Volunteer Ambulance Corps all serve on our district committee and will provide feedback on this incident as well as our protocols. And then tapping into regional resources like the Connecticut Center for School Safety to audit our plans and practices. As a follow-on to the response already underway, I'll be meeting with our school principals and district staff tomorrow to begin planning forward. I'll keep the board and community apprised of our progress to the extent that I'm able to share information. And as I've identified, some of I think that 3 key areas that we're going to continue to drill into is, one, that this individual got in the building, the time gap from which he entered the building to which the administrators knew about it, and then the trigger for initiating the standard response protocol. And I'm happy to take a couple questions if you have them. If not, I'll move on to the Cider Mill Gymnasium.
Any questions? Thank you for that elaboration and overview. In addition, I think it should be known that the discussion that we've had tonight will be summarized and made available in communication to the public in the coming days as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so onto the Cider Mill Gymnasium. Over the weekend, a hot water pipe broke in the old gym and caused extensive damage. The leak was discovered early Monday morning when the custodians arrived to open the building. Our insurance company has been contacted. There was an insurance adjuster on site today. We engaged with ServPro to begin the cleanup. We'll be submitting a full set of claims to our insurance company shortly, and it should kind of come as no surprise. This is not going to be an inexpensive fix. The floor of the gym has been completely destroyed. If you've been in that space, you know it's an old facility. The floor is wooden. The pipe that broke leaked hot water. It buckled, and there was standing water under the floor. In addition, the tile floor in the foyer has been destroyed. Some tile flooring in the adjacent closets have been destroyed. The matting on the wall around the perimeter of the gym has been destroyed and needs to be replaced. And then there are a number of items. The good news is a lot of the items that were in storage were in sealed plastic containers, and so we were able to save a lot. But there were some other things that need to be replaced. The quote for the cleanup is just over $58,000. The quote for the replacement of wall mats is another $23,400, and then we have to repaint the entire place, and that'll be another $1,700. I don't have a quote for any of the others, and as soon as that comes through, I'll share that with the board, as well as exactly what the insurance company is going to cover or not.
I'm sorry, those costs do not include the cost of repairing the floor?
No, the $58,000 is just the cleanup.
Do we have an idea of our deductible or what?
The deductible's $10,000, and so we'll pay that. And I was told that the insurance company is going to cover it all, but I haven't seen it in writing yet, and so I don't. We just need to see what exactly that all means. I think there was a question about, can we, since this was an old wooden floor, can we take the opportunity to update it with something else, rubberized floors, something. So Jose has been engaged with that insurance company, so hopefully we'll have answers pretty soon.
And I guess moving forward, I feel like this is perhaps the second or third incident that's happened over a weekend.
It's the second over a February break.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if it's worth the expense of having some type of monitoring or kind of lookout mechanism. Like, would catching it sooner would that have saved?
I mean,
I don't know.
Theoretically,
yeah,
sure. Because you could get it if you know it and you can get to it and turn the water off.
Right. So
for
I
sure.
don't know if there's something to be explored
Yeah.
on that front.
Great question. And so,
Yeah.
I'll lean on, Jose and our
Say,
facility
yeah.
staff to respond. He and I did have a brief conversation about that. And, one of the things that they need to do is just to go through and do a really systematic visual inspection of all the piping. This sounds like it was a similar issue. The end cap, I think, was rusty and failed.
Okay.
When we had the leak a year ago above the media center, it was a rusty pipe. And so they have to, just kind of get the map, see where they are, and then go and look at them and make a plan to address them if they've got others that they think are going to fail.
No. And then I'm just curious if we are having any stress or pressure put on our insurance, premiums or policies.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know how often were we evaluated, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just thinking of my homeowners or my car. The more accidents you get into, the more incidents you have, the more they want to charge you, so.
Every year, they go through the analysis and then they set our premiums.
Okay.
And they look at what usage as well as need is. They are doing a full review of all of our buildings for liability coverage.
Okay.
So that will be probably an increase in cost.
And and that's done at what time, when in the year, what time of the cycle?
It's fiscal.
So it's fiscal. Okay. And
It's possible that the insurance will go up.
and that just to clarify, that liability lands on our budget, correct?
Yes.
Portion of it.
Mhm.
Yes, a portion of it.
It's a shared policy with the town and Board of Education, and we
You cover our share. But the provider choice lives with town?
Yeah, and we
Okay.
just went through a whole
we just changed it.
RFP and changed carriers
Okay.
to Kerma. Yeah, so I
Okay.
think we're happy with the choice of carriers.
Okay.
And I will say, just as a note of kind of comparison from the past, Kerma has been very responsive.
Responsive,
Yeah.
okay, that's good to know.
And a lot of our policies, even though we did change brokers, are still with the same carriers, whether it's with Travelers or Kerma.
Sorry, broker. Mhm.
We just have a broker a different broker overseeing the, full coverage of everything
Okay,
and keeping our costs
yes,
under control as much as possible.
yes, okay. Thank
That's
you.
it for me.
Any other questions for Kevin? And so we'll move on to the financial report, and we have Don here.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Well, to add to all the good exciting news that you started with tonight, the second half of the fiscal year, as it progresses, we continue to watch the favorable and unfavorable situations within our financials. As you may recall, February 1st, we closed the budget. The decision was in anticipation of covering the unbudgeted facilities emergency repairs. And at the time, it was just $157,000, but now we know we have yet another unbudgeted emergency repair with the Cider Mill Gym that will be calculating the costs, and hopefully insurance will be covering that one so that we don't have to absorb anything other than the $10,000 or the deductible we have to cover. The other part was the special education excess cost reimbursement. We weren't sure what the state was going to be doing with that. We lowered the anticipated reimbursement amount from 1.2 million down to $1,010,000 in anticipation of receiving less reimbursement than we had originally thought we would get based on what we heard from the state. After we had done those projections, and what we did is we lower our projections and then we can absorb it throughout the whole budget so that we stay within our appropriations. We did receive our first payment, and the payment came in at $896, which is about $199,000 less than what we normally would have gotten. So we are currently running about $190,000 behind what we originally had anticipated. This is the larger of the two reimbursements we normally get, but we will have one more small reimbursement from the state a little bit later in the fiscal year. I think it's usually around May. But at least we're now somewhat more in line with the financials that you see in front of you on that reimbursement.
So now we're more in line with that 1,010,000.
So, Dawn, just do you know off the top of your head, we had estimated, based on some early information from the state, that we were going to land at about 68%. Does that number track with that? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to tell. We'll know more so. I think Andrea may know better, but I think we are ready or have already filed the second half of that. They're just not being very open with a lot of what's going on. They keep saying, oh, here's how we calculated it, but they really don't tell you what they're calculating it from and what the pot
Yeah.
of money is and where they're divvying that up. So we are gonna, we will be, hopefully we will break that $1 million. Otherwise we will be covering a little bit more.
Okay. The reason I asked, as Dawn just alluded to, the State Department of Education, so this is yet another concern that's shared by every district in the state, because we all built our budgets based on some anticipated revenue, and the first wave of information that came through from the state suggested that that was going to be substantially lower. It looks like it's almost $200,000 off so far. But in a letter that the state sent out either at the end of last week or early this week, they were forecasting percentage reimbursement rates at the same rate as last year, which for us was 71%. So that's not. There's a disconnect. Yeah.
Information that's coming out as to what's really going to happen.
Was that forecast that they put out at a total at end of the year, or was it just?
No, they received a bunch of questions when we all, saw what the reality was. Right, and I think so. They went back and did this anyone that's been around and understands, we know how it's calculated. How they got to 71 though is not, it doesn't match, because we estimated about 70, and if it was about 70, we'd be
We wouldn't
about
have
on
this.
par from a
Which
year
is
ago.
actually low compared to what we,
Yes.
at one point in time, were told we would be more higher than that.
Yeah, and after the budget was adopted a year ago, based on the calculation at the time from the State Department, it was reported that we should expect about 85%. And so we didn't budget for 85%, fortunately, or otherwise we'd be in a crisis. We budgeted for 70, but we're below 70.
So, expecting 85, budgeting 15% lower than that, and still getting less than that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Then, can I ask just one more logistical question? Is we submit the second tranche, and then we'll get a percent of that back. If the state wanted to, could they reassess or give us more
Sure.
back based on our first request?
Yep. My understanding is though that the problem is the pool of money that is budgeted by the governor's budget has not grown.
Correct.
The need and the increase in the reimbursement request has grown. And therefore, there's less money but more need,
Okay.
and it's causing a.
Same pie, more slices. Okay.
Yeah, I think the legislature would have to take action to feed more money into that line.
I
Okay.
think they had, there was talk that they were working on that, or they were gonna do that, and then I don't think it ever occurred. With, maybe they thought that it occurred, and that's why they were giving out higher projections, and then realized.
Yeah, I have a state superintendent's meeting early in the morning, and so I expect this has been an agenda item for a month,
Okay.
so I'll share whatever update comes through.
And then just anticipating the conversation that's come later in the evening, our budget for next year and forecast at the 68%.
I'd
Correct.
go back. I think we budgeted at 70.
We stayed at the 7,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
And so pretty much that's it. If anyone has any specific questions on any of the specific line items? Or, I do have a little more in my presentation, the transfers, if anybody has questions on any of the transfers, looking at a few.
Is there a line that estimates or that reserves for possible deductible payouts, or is that just kind of reserved within Jose's budget?
We don't have a separate line for the
Yeah.
deductible.
Okay.
Hope we never have to
Use it, right, okay.
We do have a general liability.
A general liability, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Dawn? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is review and discuss cider mill schedule correlating to BOE goals 1 through 7 and 24. Dr.
I was just gonna make some remarks and then turn it over to my friends who probably.
Yeah, come on up.
here. So while they're relocating, I just wanted to kind of frame this. So I'm sure you're all aware, and I know that the cider mill administrators have been sharing with you that they have been impacted pretty significantly by some social, emotional, and behavioral challenges with our students. We believe that a change in the schedule is a critical component of an overall plan to address those challenges. Currently, the way the schedule works is that we believe there are just too many transitions for young kids. Kids of this developmental stage. We also believe that for this age group, they need more frequent and longer periods of physical education. I also think that these shorter periods are contributing to some of the teachers' frustrations around curriculum implementation. So what we're proposing is hour-long blocks for subject areas and activities, which is actually a much more traditional elementary schedule model. That way we will have fewer transitions for the students. They will be able to get longer and more frequent physical education. And the teachers will have longer instructional lengths. Now, I know there has been some concern expressed about the impact this is going to have on world languages. For a number of years, we've been trying to move forward with what is known as content-based instruction, or content-based program model for world language. We began that a number of years ago. We went and visited some other districts who are doing that. We piloted some programs. But things happened and we haven't moved forward with that, mainly the pandemic. This schedule change will enable us to move that forward. And in fact, content-based instruction is one of the recommendations from ACFL, the American Council for Teachers of Foreign Language. We use the ACFL standards to base our instructional frameworks on, our content, and our assessments. And in fact, just to quote from them, they recommend two different types of programs at the elementary level. One is an immersion program, which means that students would receive all of their instruction in the target language. It's a wonderful program, but you have to have bilingual teachers who are certified in their content areas. We simply, I don't think, could move forward with a complete immersion program. The second one is a content-based program. And I'm just going to read to you what they say about content-based instruction. So content-based language programs are less intensive than immersion models, but like immersion programs, use subject matter content as the focus for learning and practicing the target language. So rather than teaching language in isolation, things like numbers, colors, school, the language comes from the connection with the grade level curriculum in science, for instance, the life cycle of the butterfly, social studies, things like differences in communities, health, making healthy choices from food groups or other subject areas. Like immersion programs, content-based programs use integrated thematic instruction that reinforces the elementary or middle school curriculum. So the way this works is, and a number of us have had experience with this model of world language, we would take, for instance, the social studies or science units, and the language teachers would pull from that language and concepts to develop a thematic unit around world language. I can give you an example. At elementary school, we do map skills, right? We learn about maps, we learn about regions. We can now learn about north, south, east, and west in the target language. We can then take the knowledge that we've learned around regions and apply it to some of the regional areas of the target language. So that's what is recommended by the gold standard of programming in world language. And so this will allow us to do that. I know there has been some concern expressed about the time, which is a completely separate issue. And I think we just need to be careful about oversimplifying instructional time. It's not just the amount of time, it's about how it's distributed and how it's used. So for instance, one of the principles of good world language instruction is that you stay 90% of the target language, right? Both students and the teachers. I have concerns about trying to get young children to stay at 90% for long periods of time. I'd much rather see daily short exposure to the language than have every other day a long period of time where they're not yet ready at the novelty level to stay at 90% of the target language. The pace needs to be quick, right? And the pace needs to be quick for a lot of reasons. We want kids engaged, right? But we don't want them thinking too much because if you've taken world language, it's best, right, when you're a little off kilter, right? You don't want to think too much about it. So there are a lot of reasons why I think this model is better. When you actually look at the time, and I think, Dave, you'll get into this a little bit better, the differences between what we're doing now and what we would do with this are negligible. And the final point I would make is this is an integrated thematic approach. So we are going to be reinforcing, so the classroom teacher is going to stay in the room while world language is occurring. That way both the world language teacher can reinforce the content from science and social studies, and the classroom teacher can reinforce the content from world language. Does that make sense? So the time is being used, I think, more efficiently and more productively, and I believe that the students will show greater proficiency. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're very excited. Dave and I are excited to share the draft of the proposed schedule with you guys tonight. As passionate educators at Cider Mill, we spend many years reflecting on our schedule and our students' academic success and increasingly their emotional well-being. As we consider revisions for our schedule, our priority was to reduce the pace, as Chuck said, of our elementary learners' day and to provide a more cohesive learning experience with fewer transitions. We fully understand that change within the system always brings about choices and challenges. However, after collecting extensive feedback from our teachers, our team truly believes this proposed schedule will provide the most student-centered learning environment for our children. I know there's been some questions too about how we're sharing information. Dave's going to go through the full plan, but I want you to know that tomorrow I'll share the PDF, the feedback form, and a link to the video of the Board of Ed meeting in case anybody wants to view this in tomorrow's newsletter that will be going out. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dave Dukes.
So, I want to go through how we got here. Currently, we run a 4-day schedule at Cider Mill on a 5-day week. What that looks like for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders is Tuesday is always day 1, Wednesday is always day 2, Thursday is always day 3, Friday is always day 4. Monday rotates day 1 through 4, except when it's a holiday, and then you have to pause, and then you have to wait till the next Monday to go. When I talked about this with the PTA, I asked them, can anyone tell me what day Monday was? And the parents, some of them said 2, some of them said 4, some of them said 3, some of them said 1. When I talked about it with the teachers, we had some saying 2, some saying 4. It's just to show you that right now, if the adults at Cider Mill are having a difficult time keeping track of the day that Mondays are, I can't imagine what the kids are having. And in the past, we've run 6 days, we've run 8 days, we've run 10-day cycles. And we've had as many as 9 to 10 transitions throughout the course of a 6.5-hour day. That's transitioning to and from, or to the classroom or from the classroom. Those blocks of time throughout the course of the day range from 20 minutes up to 55 minutes. And when you think about that from a kid's perspective, they are constantly on their toes about how long this period is, about what day it is, about where they're meant to be next, and about what they're supposed to be doing in the moment. So to keep that kind of mindset, we believe that slowing down the pace of our day will not only allow the kids a sense of relief, it'll give them more time to focus on tasks and engage in tasks. Because ultimately that's what we want our kids to be able to demonstrate their thinking and be able to focus on what they're meant to be doing in school. So if you look at the next slide, you'll see a demonstration over the past 3 years of our schedule. You'll see 2022, 2023, 23, 24, and 24, 25. The 24, 25 is what's proposed. Visually looking at it, you can see the amount that's changing. And hopefully you can see how it's simplified. The big things that are being taken out is the ACT block. World language is getting embedded into science and social studies, teacher recess, and word study. What we did when creating this schedule, we put science and social studies next to each other, and we put reading and writing next to each other. Reading and writing creates a 2-hour ELA block that word study will then be able to be embedded into. Math and science and social studies next to each other, the way that we've structured world language, gives math an hour. On certain days though, it'll actually have 80 minutes. The reason it's going to have 80 minutes is we had feedback from the teachers saying science and social studies doesn't need to be an hour long. They can do it within 40 minutes, I think, and they said they'd rather have the 80 minutes of time to be able to focus on math 2 to 3 times a week. So we're increasing math 2 to 3 times a week up to 80 minutes. Currently it's at 55. So, and you're also automatically always having an hour of math a day. And that's all about how we structure world language within that science and social studies time. Lunch and recess is also going up an hour, so I know we lost the 20 minutes of teacher recess. However, lunch is going to become 30 minutes and recess is going to become 30 minutes as well. I'll talk a little bit about reasons behind that as we move on to the next slide. But first, I want to talk a little bit more about decreasing transitions and why that is so important. So if you look at some research, and I know the research is a little bit old, but Kolb and Sugag and Lee estimate that 50% of all disruptive behavior occurs outside of the classroom during transitions. Now that's substantial because if you have 10 minutes of time lost a day due to during those transitions, that equates to 30 hours of academic time a year. We've had up to 9 transitions, like I said before, a day. And if you're looking over the course of a 6.5-hour day, that's more than 1 hour. You're going to have students getting into dysregulated states when you have that many transitions. Just because of the amount that they're moving, the amount that they're in unstructured time. So we need to diminish that in order to help them help their social emotional needs. The next slide goes into academic time. I mentioned before we're increasing academic time for math and for ELA. Part of the reason for that is we're going along with what's recommended by the resources that we're using in our school. We're introducing the IM curriculum at Cider Mill. We're going to be in grades 3, 4, and 5 next year. They recommend at least 60 minutes, and we actually have trialed 80 minutes with one of our 4th grade teams this year, the 10th, 4th grade, and they have spoken so highly about being able to have the extra time. They're saying kids are more engaged. Kids are able to spend time on the tasks. They're able to get deeper into thought and get deeper into the content. And we're seeing positive results from their classroom scores too with that. Creating a 2-hour ELA block, speaking with our instructional leaders, that's what, a lot of times that's what is recommended through the different programs and through the different resources that we use. And the world language pushing into science and social studies, that's coming out of that curriculum review that Dr. Smith spoke to. Along with all of that, it's still in the budget, a second PE class each week for our kids. We know that kids need to get up and move, so we're able to create a second PE class. Now, originally we did have 2 PE teachers in there, but we were able to be creative with it, and we were able to build in basically each trimester. Half the trimester, kids would have a second PE class, and the other half the trimester, they would either receive an SEL class taught by one of our guidance counselors or social workers. They would have a scheduled lab with our science teacher, or they'd have a makerspace time with one of our LLC teachers. The other big piece to this is when you start creating these larger chunks of academic time, you're giving teachers the ability to be flexible and to understand what their kids need and to respond to what their kids need. Sometimes I think that we have overscheduled our classes, and it has taken away a little bit of that teacher creativity, that teacher flexibility, and we've said, you know what? Every kid needs a break at 10 o'clock. It's not necessarily true. And by doing a schedule like this, you're actually promoting the ability for teachers to pick up on what their kids need and respond in a way to say, hey, listen, it's 10 o'clock, we've been working for about an hour and a half, let's take a quick little mindfulness break. Let's do a whole class movement break. And they're able to pick up on it because the other class next door, they might not need that. They might have needed that 30 minutes prior too. So we're giving teachers more flexibility to determine what the kids in their class specifically need throughout the course of the day. Along with that, one of the issues that we've had in the past has been the concept of equity with specials. So going to a Monday through Friday schedule, I get it. A lot of our holidays fall on a Monday. And then people will say, well, then those kids that are having gym on Mondays are going to miss a lot of them. We can create a schedule where specials, each trimester, they can rotate. It doesn't rotate the time, it doesn't change the time. The kids always have the special the same day, every day. But the second trimester, instead of having gym on a Monday, they might have gym on a Tuesday. And that would just, that's a way we heard that from parents in the past, we heard that from teachers in the past, so we wanted to let you know we have thought about that, we have a solution for that moving forward. Getting into lunch and recess on the next slide. So when you look at a nutritional survey done in 2018, 1,550 school districts were surveyed. The typical lunch period of an elementary school at that time was 30 minutes. Currently at Cider Mill, we run a 20-minute lunch. It's fast food. Like, we are getting the kids in, we're getting the kids out, and we have heard from our green team, it's not enough time. We've heard from parents, it's not enough time. When we presented the PTA, there were cheers for a 30-minute lunch period. Because the expectation right now is that 140 students eating lunch during each block, they gotta get in line, buy lunch, eat lunch, get additional food if they're still hungry, line up and get out to recess in 20 minutes. That's 6 things to do within 20 minutes. So we need this additional time for them. On top of that, we follow a lot into the concept of purposeful play, right? Typically, a play cycle lasts 30 minutes. Currently at Cider Mill, our recess is 20 minutes long. So the idea of expanding recess to 30 minutes actually creates what's called a high-quality recess. And if you look at the Oregon State University on high-quality recess, they say that increasing the amount of time allows for kids to become more engaged during recess. It sounds really simple, but there's other research out there that says, no, you should do 4 15 minutes a day. But we know that the play cycle is 30 minutes of time. A high-quality recess, research has shown that by doing a high-quality recess, you can improve executive functioning, resilience in students, emotional self-control, and ultimately results in positive classroom behavior. Now, a high-quality recess is longer time, adult intervention, and choice. A lot of you probably are already aware we run a studio at Cider Mill where kids have additional choice to choose to either go to an art, music, PE if they don't feel like they want to go out to recess. And that's run by one of our special area teachers. We're still able to do that with this schedule. Along with that, we're able to get teachers out at every single recess. Some of our most unstructured time is now going to be able to be supported by by our highly qualified and trained teachers. And ultimately, when we look at those types of adult interventions, you're looking at greater opportunities for students and teachers to develop stronger relationships. I think we're all aware that Hattie's research shows relationship is a major subject for change and positive growth in the student's life. The next piece of this kind of puzzle, because everyone says, why do you do this, Dave? And I say, well, I really like puzzles, is the idea of teacher prep, IET, and lunch. So back in around 2015, a survey by Policy Studies Associates surveyed 3,000 teachers. And they said, what do you need in your school? 50% of them said, we need more planning time. 34% of them said, we need more time to collaborate with other teachers. So, it's really difficult to add minutes to a day when your day is confined to a set amount of minutes. But we're able to currently look at our prep time, and it's 40 minutes daily. Next year, we're giving teachers 60 minutes 3 times a week of continuous prep. The other 2 times a week, they'll have 45 minutes. It would be a 15-minute block after the IET, and then a 30-minute block after their lunch. Their IET time is being increased from 40 minutes 2 times a week to 45 minutes 2 times a week. So if you average out over the course of a week, we're able to increase their prep by 50 minutes, their IET time by 10 minutes. Their lunch time is going from 40 minutes down to 30 minutes. And we're working through that to make sure everyone is aware of it, everyone's comfortable with it, and I can get into more details about that as well. But the reason why we really want to focus on longer chunks of prep is because of the amount of time that our teachers are asking for more time. We know what the surveys say, and we're trying to listen to our teachers and help support them to give them the time that they need to be successful with our kids. So in order to do this, it didn't start on January 30th. It started, honestly, when I got here. So my first time being in Cider Mill, they had me sit in on a 2-hour schedule meeting back in 2021 or 2022, the springtime there. And this was, you had just come out of a lot of the COVID, and next year is going to be more of a typical year. Teachers back then were asking, man, it seems like we do a lot in a day. Kids have been saying, wow, our days are busy. Parents have been saying, my kid doesn't have enough time to eat, barely have enough time to play. They come home, and they can tell that they're just suspended. So with all the feedback that we've been getting, we thought, let's put a draft schedule together. And I first met with the scheduling committee on January 30th. I said, it is a draft in bold letters. I've got really weird titles for all of the different drafts that I have. And this one was just draft schedule 24, 25, 130. And the teachers had some phenomenal feedback. They asked, they said, can we make math longer? I said, let's look at it. Let's look at how we can do that. And I worked with them to be able to kind of conform the schedule to make it so that we can have those 80-minute blocks of math. They then said, hey, Dave, you've got 3 hours for 3rd grade of straight academic time. Is there a way that we can actually not have them in 3 straight hours of academics, because that might be a little too much? I said, absolutely, let's look at it together. We looked at it, we're able to make it so that we have a 2-hour chunk, 2-hour chunk, and 2-hour chunks. We broke the day up for 3rd grade. When I shared that with them, they were thrilled. Then on February 7th, we met with the leadership team to go over it. The leadership team was ecstatic to hear that they're getting longer chunks of prep, and that they're getting longer chunks of academic time, and that they're able to writing and reading up against one another, and that they've got those flexibilities with it. We heard from interventionists and we heard from special education teachers asking when are we going to be able to pull different students, and we talked through how these hour-long chunks will actually become more efficient for intervention, because instead of having a 40-minute block, you now have an hour block. And intervention typically runs on 30 minutes. So now instead of pulling kids for 30 minutes and then you have a random 10-minute kind of span there, you actually have 2 blocks of 30 minutes that you're able to pull from within one set of an academic time. On February 12th, we held an open meeting from the scheduling committee and the leadership team to continue the discussions. The 27th, we met with the PTA to review the changes. And yesterday, we met with the full faculty. We're going to share out the draft schedule with the full faculty along with a feedback form for it. I said, listen first, kind of digest it, and then provide the feedback. And then the 29th, that's what we're here for right now. And then we have the 4th and the 13th. The 4th is a follow-up meeting with the scheduling committee and the leadership team, and the 13th is a voluntary follow-up with anyone from the faculty to discuss the schedule change. It doesn't stop on the 13th, though. I think that's what we need to be aware of. The world language, I know that's a big change. We're talking about having our world language team and our team leaders go to other districts to see how they run the periods, to consult with them a little bit. And I also know that we're going to continue to foster parent feedback and garner their any info or questions they may have at future PTA meetings too. But again, it doesn't even stop on June 16th, right? Because we need to determine if this schedule is actually successful. A change doesn't make a difference if you don't actually go back and reevaluate it to see if it actually has a benefit. So next year, we're going to be monitoring throughout the fall, throughout the winter, throughout the spring. This year, we actually held one of our first scheduling committee meetings, September 30th. We'll probably hold it a little bit sooner next year. But really what we want to do is we want to start isolating some empathy interviews. We want to do student interviews. We want to look at academic scores. We do think that by slowing the pace down, it's going to help our students not only academically get more engaged in the tasks, but be able to not feel so rushed, not feel so anxious about what's coming next, and feel ready to meet the challenges and the demands that we want to put on them. We're going to garner parent feedback, and then we're just going to continue to do low-level touch points for a more consistent feedback loop. But it's going to be a consistent monitoring throughout the course of the year to see if we need to make any changes. I said before, if we need to make shifts and adjustments, yeah, let's do it. If we need to make a pivot, let's do it. We just need to make the best decision for what's in the best interest of the students.
just realized that this is the first
First
full
meeting.
presentation you've
Yeah.
given at the board table, so another notch on the.
That's right.
I have some questions. I'm sure others around the table have some questions. It's also a lot to, very thoughtful presentation, a lot to digest and take in. So I don't know. I'm happy to start. Somebody else can. I don't know.
I have one question. I'll
Go
go
ahead.
first.
Yep.
If I'm reading correctly, it looks like the time of lunch changes pretty drastically.
So the time of lunch, it shifts by about 30 minutes.
Okay. Because I'm sorry, it looked like, right now, it looks like it's usually 12:05 to 12:45, recess and lunch.
So that's for third grade, yeah, but our fifth grade starts lunch at 10:35 and they finish at 11:15.
Okay. So it's not a huge, we're not changing lunch by 2 hours.
No, we're not changing lunch by that. It's just the third grade schedule here. So
Got it.
fifth grade this year has the early lunch block. Next year it would be third grade who has the early lunch block.
Got it. Makes sense. Kids get hangry.
They do.
But I will say,
They had
whoever
good
has
snack.
the like early lunch has snack in the afternoon and
Yeah.
then, vice versa, so they work it out.
I figured it's possible.
Before I get into just some questions, I know I had sent in some ones earlier, so you definitely addressed some of them. Has there been any thought to an idea of doing a pilot this spring, maybe taking a grade or a week or whatever it is, and just kind of getting some feedback? I know that curriculum won't have been set or changed within that time, so for the world language changes, I'm not expecting something to be executed on par with what would be September, but just to kind of have a feel for it, and perhaps maybe have a focus group or two with some of the teachers or the kids, just to see if it's on track for
Yeah.
where we're thinking.
I've thought a little bit about that. The one challenge with that is we currently only have 4 specials. We don't have the 5th special.
Okay.
Now, we could be creative with that.
Mhm.
And I think I have a way that one of the LLC teachers have mentioned to me where we could potentially create a 5th special. And I would just have to draft that up. But
Okay.
that's something that
Okay.
is a possibility.
To
So
note
I-
though, that would impact the makerspace, our transdis.
Yeah.
Due to not adding the staff now, it makes it very challenging
Right.
to run a full pilot.
Oh, okay. I think that
Yeah,
that's
see
something
what
to
you
work.
can put together.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like
It's-
worth the effort to see what we
Absolutely.
can put together on that. And then I'm just specials are, I presume you include gym, art, LLC, music.
Gym or LLC music, yeah, so the one difference next year, art is an hour, and they were thrilled to get an hour studio. Gym would be an hour, the
Okay.
second gym would be an hour. LLC and music would actually run 2 times a week, and they'd be 30 minutes
Okay.
each time. And we've already spoken with the LLC team and the music team. They're comfortable with the transitions, and they said for LLC, one would be more about like content driven, the other one would be more about like the book checkout and kind of things like that. Keyboarding as well potentially, and then music, they said they'd be able to, they think that the kids' stamina would be better suited for 2 30-minute sessions rather than 1 hour session.
And then I presume, is it possible to kind of give an example to parents, like what that rotation kind of would look like in over the course of a month or a semester or whatever it is, just so people can get a sense or a feel, like gym is how many times a week and art, and just have the visual,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
that,
A weekly schedule.
yeah, like a weekly schedule.
Yep, we are
Um,
still working through that fifth special, just because
Right.
remember, we originally had requested 2 PE teachers.
Right.
So we are having to do some real creative
Right.
scheduling
Uh-huh.
to kind of flesh out that
Okay.
fifth,
Okay.
special, only because we don't have the.
Okay, but there is a potential for either like a STEM opportunity or a
Exactly.
DB
So we're
or
looking
a
at
DBT
makerspace, we're
or
looking at our
opportunity
guidance
or
staff,
okay,
exactly.
okay,
So we're working
okay,
through that.
okay. Because I know that we have, over the last couple of years, one of our priorities has been kind of investing in our LLCs in that
Yeah.
makerspace and
Yeah.
those types of programming. So if we're moving LLC back a half an hour,
Oh, no, we're
No.
not losing a half.
They're not losing time, so
No.
if you
just,
actually
I'm
look
so,
at.
okay, good, so correct me.
Yeah, if you actually look at special area times, you have to average out over the course of 4 weeks because
Okay.
it's a 4-week rotation, right?
Okay.
So currently, over the course of 4 weeks, I think it's about 200 minutes because they see them about five times.
Okay,
And then in this new schedule, though, it would actually be 300 minutes over the course of 4 weeks. So you
Okay.
have gym an hour every week, so really you're picking up close to 15 to 20 minutes a week.
okay, okay.
We can lay it all out, though,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
really
so I
easy
think
to
that would be,
visualize,
yeah, helpful to have a little bit
Yep.
more of a.
And then I know Chuck had mentioned world language before. World language currently, I have to do it over the course of an average of 2 weeks
Mhm.
because you have it 3 times 1 week right now and 2 times the next week.
Okay.
It averages out to being about 100, or not about, it's 100 minutes a week.
And what is it currently?
Currently it's 100 minutes a week. Next year it would be 75 minutes a week.
Okay.
With the 15-minute daily portion.
So it's 75 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And we do
Okay.
have, 5-minute transitions
Transitions,
on each side, because I know somebody had mentioned with the shorter time, there's concern about.
So it's not
transitions.
100 minutes in the classroom, it's 100 minutes from the time that you leave the classroom to the time, like,
This year it's 100 minutes over
Okay.
the course of a week.
okay.
Next year it would be 75 minutes over the course
I'm
of a
just
week.
asking how you calculate the minutes.
Oh.
Does the minutes include the transition, or does
Oh,
it not
no.
include the transition?
No.
Well, it does, yes.
This year
No,
this
so
year
like
it-
the
this
100
year
minutes
it-
of this
it
year
does.
includes the
Yeah.
transition.
Next year it does not include the
So next, so
transition.
the,
Just
and the
75.
75, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
you do.
I would just like to point out that we put the 5-minute transition in there because the teachers wanted it. But Dave has been very smart in how he's scheduling it. They're gonna be going from
Yeah.
one classroom
It's not
to
gonna
the
be 5
next.
minutes. Yeah.
It's not gonna be 5 minutes.
Okay.
So it's actually gonna be more than 75 minutes. And I would point out that right now, with them going to the world language class,
Correct. There's-
that transition is impacting not only world language time, but participation in other activities.
Okay. And then, and then I just had a few questions about the SPED intervention, how you now have the full block, so you have 30 and 30 to work with, but you're getting rid of that ACT, or WIN ACT,
Yep.
however people are most familiar with it.
Yes.
Push-in. So is that, is there still going to be, both push-in and push-out?
Yep.
It'll just be,
Absolutely.
within that, variation within that time blocks. However, the interventionists and the special ed teachers coordinate it, just not with call that specifically.
Correct, yeah, we're
Okay.
taking that time and dispersing it.
Yeah, because I know that there seemed to be an appreciation for the push-in over the pull-out. So I just, if that was still being able to be kept or maintained under this, this
That
system.
won't change.
Okay. And I'm sure I'll come up with more, and we'll have more opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I don't know, Nicola, if you
Right. Do you still, my cyber knowledge is a little rusty now, do you still run French and Spanish?
Yes.
So how is it gonna work in a class if you're in social studies getting a foreign language with
So-
Spanish and French?
Yep, so the kids would still sign up for French or Spanish, and depending on the amount of teachers that they have, the amount of kids that sign up for French or for Spanish, their social studies teacher, like, I would have the French students in my class, Jen would have Spanish students in her class, Chuck would have Spanish students in his class. So there would be that transition to science and social studies, and then I would be all of the French students' science and social studies teacher, Jen would be all of the Spanish students' science and social studies teacher, and Chuck would be the Spanish science and social studies teacher as well.
That will allow for that reinforcement, mutual reinforcement between.
Okay. So if they're kind of working in teams,
Yes.
to some, you could say it's a team.
Yes.
So it would be like a third grade kind of Spanish social studies science team.
Which
yeah.
many of you know, I think we switched a lot for our science and social studies anyways, and the
Yeah.
students and teachers.
And
knew that.
this might be, I'm sorry, I'm just curious because now, yeah. And so I presume then there could be an opportunity also for like joint IET kind of time or collaboration built in
Absolutely.
on that level in schedules.
No, right. And that, you talked about trialing of the 80-minute math blocks
Yes.
on in K Kent or you
Kent
click
Ford.
green now?
Yep, Kent Ford
Um,
trial list.
Is that, what evidence have you got that that's working? Is it in MAP scores? Is it in?
MAP scores and teacher reports. Yeah, so if you look at some of our highest performing students, they're coming from some of those classes.
So what they did was they actually took some of that ACT time and morphed it into their math time. It just happened they were able to play around with it with the way their schedule was built. And so that's how they were able to do that.
And have we talked to the kids about it? Just piggyback on that. You said the teachers are really liking it, their scores are better. Just curious if, anybody's sat down with the kids.
I haven't sat down with those kids, but that's
Okay.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, that would be, interesting to how they think or feel about it.
They started off the year with the regular.
Yeah, they started off
It's
the year with
fairly soon, but-
they started off the year with the regular, and then when we gave them the option to do it, they said, listen, we're gonna try and be creative this year, and they came to us and said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's see what it can do, and they've had really positive feedback with it. But again, the concept of just listening to what the teachers need that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
do. They respond really well to it.
Does the added math time allow them to go deeper on the same amount of content or wider?
Our goal is a little bit deeper, and they might even be able to go a little bit wider or further too, yeah. It just gives them more time. It doesn't make it feel like you have to rush through a task. It makes you feel like you're letting the kids engage with the task.
I know this team in particular has been able to engage in some more of the center activities that kind of come with the program that we've been having a challenge fitting in. So it's been supportive of that as well.
Anybody, any other?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. From a staffing standpoint with paraprofessionals, have you heard any feedback from the teachers having concerns about some of those students who can't necessarily handle the longer blocks and needing additional support, or having IEPs that preclude a kid from being in the classroom for that long and having to have that one-on-one support? Is that going to cause any additional
That's a
staffing
good
needs
question.
or anything?
So one of the things I think that we've always had in elementary school tried to have longer blocks. We squish to the 55-minute even when we can't fully get the hour block. So we know that our kids throughout the day do have longer chunks. And I would say traditionally in elementary school, teachers are trained just on how to keep the kids moving. When we say hour block, that in no way does that mean that there's a teacher standing up at the front of the, class teaching, lecturing.
It's never been the case.
So, we've done so much work with movement breaks, mind breaks, mindfulness, that, I think our teachers are fully equipped to kind of make sure that even an hour-long block doesn't feel like somebody's sitting down for an hour block.
And I think the paraprofessionals know the kids well enough to know what they need to do.
And then when it comes to the actual foreign language teachers, I'm sure they express concerns.
Yes.
I know that, but I'm trying to physically wonder, like, do they have a home to land at during the day, right? Because if they're not going to be teaching in their classroom, when it comes to having things to manipulate in the classroom when it comes to language, you're saying that they're going to be focused around the things that will be in the classroom for science and social studies.
But they'll also have cards.
Yeah, so I do want to clarify too, just so you know, that traditionally our world language teachers have always been on cards.
So that
Yeah, so this year was the first year that I was able to give them 2 rooms. I've never had enough rooms, just my building's not big enough to give them their own space. We've actually realized through the course of this year that giving them even 2 rooms was a disservice to our kids, because we have French kids going from Cannondale all the way up to Belden Hill, or it's actually not worked. So regardless of this change, we were probably going back, and to be honest, to having everybody on a cart for world language anyways, because it wasn't serving kind of the work within the school for the kids, for anybody. So they've always had a home base, and so it's more of an office as it's traditionally been. And I think that then, as Chuck said, it's on a cart. And first, it sounds not ideal, and if you talk to them, I'm sure everybody would rather have a classroom, but with the amount of movement that our kids have to do do across a very large building at this age, it actually works out better for the students to have the language program brought into the classroom.
And again, it will be, most of the materials
Yeah,
are
sure.
already.
Right. Do we have any models for these 15, other schools that are doing these
Yeah.
15-minute blocks? Can you guys speak to that? Which schools
Yeah,
are they?
the two that I know of, when, a few years ago, we had visited New Canaan, who's doing, and I do think they start their language program generally, a little bit earlier. Greenwich also, has a very similar program, and I think they start in second or third grade, I'm not
It
sure.
depends upon the school.
Oh,
but
okay.
Most of it's in third grade.
Right. And then, I don't know much about sorry, I can't remember 'cause I'm thinking about the foreign language curriculum for the elementary school, but, when it comes to things like scoring or homework or grades or anything like that, is that gonna impact these kids? You know, just like, are they gonna have those things anymore, or is it gonna be a total shift away from that, or is it still gonna be very similar? I just don't remember how it was designed.
Sure, so we have standards.
Yeah.
I actually anticipate that the kids would read more of the standards of this particular model. And again, the way we do it, I don't know how long we were kids or how long ago, but we have a standards-based report card. So it's, do they meet the standards, do they exceed the standards, or they have not
Okay.
yet achieved?
Alright, but they're not like having to submit homework or anything like that. Okay.
I don't
Alright.
think so.
No, I think the idea is to have it more, like you
Yeah.
were saying, fast, kind of more language,
At the elementary level, we're focusing more on listening, speaking, and reading. So
Right.
that would be, it would be hard to give homework for listening.
Right, that's what I thought, I just wanted to double check. And then when it comes to the curriculum, actual development, do you anticipate, working, like taking the science and social studies curriculum that's existing, and then just building on top of that, and then is that, like, how much time is that gonna take? Is that gonna happen over the summer?
It's gonna happen between now and the summer and over the summer and probably throughout next
Right.
year.
Okay.
I'm actually in contact with the World Language Coordinator of New Canaan, and she's expressed some desire for us to partner as districts to, they've already got full curriculum,
Right.
but it's something that's, like with curriculum, we're constantly working on.
Right.
So she was interested in partnering with us to develop some of these units. She actually did share one
Yes.
that I shared with the staff.
Yep.
There's some examples in the book here,
Right.
standards, so it'll be an ongoing process.
So during that hour block, let's say, the block starts, and does it just depend on which north, south, Kent,
Yeah,
whatever?
it depends on the day,
Is it-
right? In order to ensure that you can get 80 minutes of continuous math 2 to 3 times a week, there's a little bit of a rotation for when the Spanish or the French teacher would kind of push into that class for science and social studies. But it would happen during that time. And again,
But it wouldn't necessarily be at the beginning of the day, it'd be like right in the middle of science and
It could be in the
social
middle,
studies?
yeah.
Do you anticipate any issues with continuity when it comes to teaching those classes, having it broken up?
I don't think so, but that's one of the things we'll have to kind of collect feedback on as we go, so. And we also, I know one of the concerns was because not having, like a 40-minute block might take away from some of the special events and everything, but we've always run different special schedules and, for different events, and so we would make sure that things that are culturally important would just be brought into the science and social studies class.
I had to say, one of the standards is around culture,
Yeah.
and that would be integrated into the unit, so we're not gonna get away from.
So I still get to
talking
come
about
in and make
culture.
crepes.
Yes.
I know, that was some concern.
Those are more special events.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that some of the things that the kids also associate
Yes.
beyond just the language piece
Doesn't mean
of
everything
the the curriculum aspects of it.
We wouldn't take away any of those wonderful things that
Yeah.
the kids get.
Now, I'm assuming no, but I just wanted to make sure, is the language FTE still a 1, or is it a 0.8?
Well, we have,
3.0.
three
We have
point-
3.0.
we have
We
3.0.
have 2
three,
Spanish
yeah.
teachers and a French
Okay,
teacher.
and
And
I
still
didn't
three-
like one teacher is still.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, it's
Oh,
not, it's not
oh.
going down to a 0.8 because you.
No,
can't
no.
Anytime, okay. And are they having to take on any additional administrative duties like recesses or bus
believe that, and she's still, it's
Well, yeah, but
important.
if it's equitable, then.
So,
Correct, yeah. It's either a recess or maybe a bus or something like that, but, I have to look, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they'll have it there with lunch, just like everyone else would. Yes, and same.
And just at a, the scheduling committee, is it a group of teachers? Like, who is the scheduling committee?
Teachers.
Okay.
Administrators.
Administrators, okay.
It includes mental health as well, and it includes,
Mental health.
special education, interventionists,
Okay.
and special areas too.
Okay. And it would, and music lessons would be from where?
Yes, if I had had my dream schedule, if there's a way to ever figure this out, we would not be doing pull-out. We could not, even with this schedule change, figure out a way of making instruments not a pull-out. So it's
Okay, so
still be
instruments would
pull-out.
still be a
We're gonna
pull-
try to be
It
very
would be-
careful
yeah, it'd be a
to not have it
rotation,
come
but-
out of some of our critical core areas, but
Okay.
we'll continue to be a
Oh, so continue to do
Again, I
what?
think it could be beneficial though having hour-long blocks, because instead of, again, the 40 minutes or the 55 minutes, you can do 30 minutes and 30 minutes, and you know that you're missing over the first half of the first part.
Okay.
of the
They won't be
second.
missing
Okay.
most of it.
The lesson is a 30-minute
Yes.
Yeah.
pull out. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Conversation to continue, but
Yes.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
So just the, I want to,
Oh.
can you summarize the
Yeah.
6141 changes?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, we're going a little late.
No, we're good, fine.
Okay. Oh, it was later.
30, 825.
Oh, yes, okay.
It's the thickest piece of paper.
So these are just modifications to our 6141 course proposals for Canadian Social Studies, United States History, Honors, U.S. History, and Black and Latino Studies. So as you may have heard me previously, there are some mandates from the State Ed Department that I'm covering certain content, which we covered, but we weren't as explicit as we should have been in the 6141, so I asked them to add it. That's all there is, and you can see, I believe we highlighted the changes, just to make sure that everybody understands that we are covering what is mandated, particularly in terms of Native American studies, Asian American and Pacific Islander studies, those two. Yeah, those two. Okay?
All right, so just to be really clear, this is reflecting existing curriculum. We're just wanting to be really explicit because of the state mandates and
And if the
wanting
state
to
ever
just
wanted to
cross
audit
Ts.
or look,
Might be me
it's,
being a little OCD. but
Good.
Yeah.
I,
All right.
okay,
I envision somebody from the state saying, prove that you cover this.
yeah. Can I just ask a quick question, because I noticed that you're going to offer, the Black and Latino Studies, as a, honors level as well concurrently. Are there other classes that we do honors concurrent? I'm just curious if that's a standard model.
We do have some.
You do have some,
Yes,
okay.
we do have some.
And then I don't expect a response right now, but I'm just gonna throw it out there, that I was curious if there's ever been any thought to, running that course as a semester model.
We've talked about it.
Yeah, we have
Mhm.
talked about
Okay,
that. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
as you know, we've talked about, we haven't gotten the subscription because it's
Yeah.
a year-long course, and we'd want to. We need to attract kids to it, and
Okay.
so that might be one of the
Okay.
pathways.
If I were to actually say the way we should do it,
Integrate.
the social studies people would have preferred it, is that this be embedded in the
Yeah.
existing
Yes.
courses
Yes.
rather than be something separate. I believe we went with the honors hoping that that would
Okay.
attract
More students, okay.
The problem is there's a mandated curriculum, and I'm not so sure we could deliver it in the semester.
That's right, okay.
Is the idea that more kids would sign up because it's an honor
Yes.
level and it's better on?
Yes.
Any other, questions on this for Chuck? And moving on to possible action items, discuss and approve superintendent's 24-25 budget proposal, BOE goal number 12.
Great. So I'm asking the board for a motion to approve a revised proposal that is revised down by $599,344. So the revised budget proposal is for $93,540,759, which represents a 4.88% increase over this current year's budget. The reductions come in these ways. As you know, we engaged with a transportation consultant. We had one of the routing experts in the latter part of January, and as a result of that work, we've made plans to consolidate several routes across each tier, which enables us to take 2 full buses out of service, which will yield $190,000 in savings. I've also put forward a request to First Selectwoman Boucher, a proposal that the Board of Selectmen approve a technology lease agreement, which would enable us to take $200,000 also out of that budget. They haven't approved that yet, and so I'm a little bit nervous about having you guys vote on this number, but I think it's a calculated risk at this point. If for some reason things go sideways and they don't get to it or can't do it, I'm working on a plan B, and so in part of that, what would that look like is, the Board of Ed engaging directly with a leasing company rather than working through a bank to get some of the equipment. I don't know yet today that we would be able to get the full amount of equipment that we're looking to get with this more traditional bank lease, and then we might have to defer some costs. So, I do have, it's not fully articulated. I have a fallback plan that we're articulating. I'm comfortable with the reduction, and I think that's important. I also removed the 1.0 humanities instructional coach position at the Middlebrook. I don't love that. The position is vacant. I'm seriously concerned about our budget right now. We've been working with the high school. We're going to be restoring the 1.0 humanities coach there. That's been budget neutral at the high school. I've talked to Eric initially about any interest that he might have in splitting his time. That's really today too much for him to do, but I did talk to him about providing some support, even just to engage with the staff of the building, spend a little bit of time there, and just try to set up a structure so we can begin to move forward. So that's also, it's a reduction I'm comfortable with today, and we'll continue to work on providing different opportunities for instructional humanities coaching support there at Middlebrook. We had $20,000 sitting on the facilities line for the potential lease of a new truck. We took that out. And then I asked Andrea to go back into the special services budget and see if she could make any reductions. So she came back with a total reduction of $48,560. $36,000 was taken in a reduction in the contracted services line for special services, and they went back and looked at some revised IEPs, and as students have improved, she feels comfortable that we can reduce some of the services that would have come through the contracted service. We took a $5,400 reduction in digital learning from special services, and then another $7,160 in equipment. So we're just deferring the purchase for another year of some replacement technology equipment and special services. So all that together gives us the reduction of $599,344, which represents the 4.88% increase over this current year's budget. You're welcome.
Are there any questions for Kevin?
Kevin, we know why. Is it the vote from the Board of Selectmen on the leasing thing? Why haven't they done it? Because they can't get on the agenda,
You know,
they're
they're,
their own situation?
yeah, they're just, I mean, they're working through their own budget process. You know, we had some conversation with Matt Knickerbocker and Tony on Monday. Matt was in my office again today, and so, so we're still working through it, but, the town has been pretty engaged in its own budget processes, and so, and we still have time, right? This didn't need to happen by today. It would have been nice if it was able to, but, we still have time.
Okay.
I appreciate the cuts, and I appreciate the effort. I'm still stand behind some things I said earlier, which is, I think increasing the budget is a good idea. I just don't always align with where it's allocated right now. So I just wanna say that out loud, make sure you guys understand, I'm not mad at increasing the budget, I'm just frustrated with some of the allocation. So, just making sure that I understand that.
I think I'm happy to see that we were able to find reductions and savings in things that don't affect staff and programming. I think where we would have to go next is a place that I'm glad that we're not going. And we're living in a difficult budgetary period, and this is the second year in a row our budget is frozen, and it makes operations more difficult, and it makes it hard to advance the type of program and the types of services that I think our community and our town have come to expect and meet those educational desires and needs. So I think that this fulfills the need. It fulfills the need for next year. It gets us to a place where we get to provide for our kids in a way that we feel aligns with our mission and our values. It puts back some of the things that we unfortunately had to take away last year with some of the clubs and stipends. It allows us to move forward with our continuous improvement program and the continuing with the illustrative math implementation, the putting forward the ideas that are coming out of various curriculum reviews. So is there a motion to adopt a Board of Education budget as proposed tonight? That is a request of $93,540,759,000 and represents a 4.88% increase over last year. Thank you, Pat. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicola. All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. I would also just like to, on behalf of Pam, who is not able to be here tonight, while we don't provide for proxy voting in our bylaws, she did say that she is writing in full support of Dr. Smith's proposed school budget. We need to be careful not to add any more cuts that would compromise our teachers' ability to do their important work. My apologies for not being able to be with you. Pam. Future business and information items. bring everybody's attention, the enrollment report was attached to this budget, agenda. The Board of Education meeting for March 7th is canceled. I'd like to bring the attention to the community of a Parents, Schools, and Technology forum, Conquering Mean Behavior Together. That'll be running on March 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. in the Wilton High School Little Theater. There will be dinner, and then from 6:30 to 9:30, panel discussion followed by breakout sessions. The information is available on Parent Square for registration. Panelists include Rob Ciapola from the Wilton Police Department, Liz Jorgensen, a clinician from Insight Counseling, Fran Compar, our Director of Digital Learning, Andrea Leonardi, our Assistant Superintendent of Special Services, Jessica Richmond Smith, a partner at Shipman and Goodman, Lori Storch Smith, a pediatrician, and representatives of our Wilton Public School teachers. Then on Wednesday, March 20th, we will have a BOF public hearing on the Board of Education budget, and that'll take place at the Middlebrook Auditorium at 7 p.m. I invite everyone in the community to attend, and then the following evening we will get together for our regular meeting on March 21st. Are there comments from the public? Seeing none on Zoom. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering, where can we find this priest's comments on the budget? I'm just curious as to the allocation piece that you were speaking about.
This was
We-
from,
Yes. There are, you asked the question, so it'll get answered, but all meetings are recorded, and you can go online and look at previous meetings. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, meeting is adjourned at 8:39.